I don't know why I'm having such a trouble recording this video. This is like the 20th take of this video, but this one's going to be it. All right. So I wanted to make a video today talking about non-negotiable standards that men should have in a committed relationship. Right. And so the reason why I'm making this video is because I have been dealing with a lot of guys. I've coached guys, many guys over the last 10 years or so, probably over 100 guys, definitely over 100 guys. And commonly I see these same exact mistakes. I see relationships blowing up. I see women cheating on guys, leaving them, abusing them, right? Or just getting to a point where they don't even like the guy. They're just nagging the guy. They're just like, the guy kind of feels like, man, like I can't do anything right? And part of the reason for this, or a large part of the reason for this, is a loss of respect. And it's because the man is not leading the relationship, and because he doesn't have rules in place or any kind of standards for himself that of what he will accept and not accept. And so what happens is, because he doesn't have standards that are in stone, that he's already thought about ahead of time and that were pre-negotiated when entering the committed relationship, he sort of treats everything on a case-by-case basis. And because he loves the girl, or he feels a certain way for the girl, he lets her get away with certain stuff, saying, oh, well, she really loves me, and, I trust her. It's not a big deal. All right. So this definitely causes problems. And so I want to give you some rules, okay, that you should implement, that I find that make a relationship a lot more successful if these rules are in place. And they're not unilateral, meaning that it's something that you as a man should be creating these rules and leading the relationship by putting this into place, but you should also be following this as well, right? It's not a unilateral thing where you're saying, all right, this woman has to do these things, but you're complying with these things as well. Now, it seems pretty vague, but as I go through the list, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, before I even get into this list, I do have to tell you that a lot of people are going to say that what I'm saying here is controlling and that it's insecure. Or they'll say, I trust my partner. You don't need to do this thing if you have trust for your partner. I understand the sentiments here, okay? And I understand the thinking behind this, but what you will find is that in strong periods of the relationship, that may be true, okay? But in weaker areas of the relationship, or when you're having a fight and there's arguments, it's going to be good that these rules are in place. It's going to be good that these standards are in place, and also that these things can slip over time, right? And the other thing I want to say about this is that there's been this huge pushback against men that have standards or have boundaries, or that say that they like something, or they want something, or they don't want something, right? So when a man expresses his wants or needs, or he tries to set boundaries in a relationship, what I'm finding today is a lot of women are criticizing that and calling it controlling and insecure. And that actually is turning into a manipulation tactic instead of being sincere on their part, right? Now, I don't know if women are doing this on purpose. I'm sure some of them are. But I think also it's just something that they're hearing because it's being echoed a lot. And so they're repeating this thing over and over again. And the effect that it's having is that it's causing men to be afraid to set boundaries and to have standards. And, I could tell you as a man that you shouldn't be afraid regardless of what the reaction is, right? There's so many guys that are so afraid of being called insecure, which makes them insecure about being insecure. You can't be more insecure than being insecure about being insecure, right? You know what I'm saying? So don't worry about being insecure. If you want something, say what you want. If you need something, say what you need. If you don't like something, say what you don't like. And if you want to have a boundary, you want to have a boundary that you're setting in place that is important to you, a standard that you have, it is okay to have that standard, regardless of what it is. If someone doesn't like that standard, or they don't like the boundary that you've set, they can choose not to follow it, and they can choose to not be in the relationship, okay? But you should be able to say, hey, no, that's not okay with me, and I don't like that. All right, now with that said, let's jump into the list here. All right, I think it's like 7 things that I feel like when you get into a relationship with a woman, all right, you should be setting these things, making sure these things are true and being followed, all right, before you commit to a relationship. All right, this is really, really important that you pre-establish these things. Now, if you haven't pre-established these things, you still need to introduce them into a relationship as standards. We'll talk a little bit about how to do that towards the end of this video. All right, so the first one here is no public social media unless it's a business. All right. this just makes sense, all right? The reason for this is because social media causes all kinds of trouble in relationships. You know this, I know this, I'm sure you've seen it happen before. And so there's really no need when you're in a committed relationship to have public social media unless it is for business purposes. Especially, this applies to men, of course, but it more so applies to women because women, especially Instagram, they're going to get hit up by guys. It happens all the time. And the more that that's happening, even if you trust the girl that you're with, the problem is that over time, it creates that temptation. It's also sort of a disrespecting, and then where are the boundaries? Where are the lines, right? If some guy hits her up and then she responds, is that wrong, right? What happens if, that conversation carries on, or she makes a friend with one of these guys that there's all kinds of scenarios that just are better to be avoided. And it'll be avoided by making social media private. And again, if someone has a problem making their social media private, you have to ask, well, why? If it's not for business, it's for attention. And that's a red flag. It's a big problem, right? Second one, no guy friends, okay? This one I get so much flack on this every time I say this. People call it weak and insecure, and they say it's unreasonable. But I've told you guys, right, you shouldn't have girls that are friends. It just doesn't make sense. I could go into the details of why this is the case, but it's going to cause you trouble later down the road, whether you have feelings for this girl or develop feelings for this girl, or you get into a relationship later with the girl and then now she's like, wait a minute, you're talking to this other girl and she's just your friend. This is weird, right? It's going to cause issues there. And it's just not the right thing to do if you want to live the best life possible as a man. Like, it doesn't mean that you can't have girls that are acquaintances that but now the flip, right? So when you get into a committed relationship with a girl, she should not have guy friends. She should not have guys that she's talking to on a regular basis. Now, again, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have some acquaintances, from back in the day or whatever, that every once in a while, she might say something to, or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about friends. I'm talking about people that you talk to on a regular basis, that you hang out with. Those are friends, all right? And when a woman gets into a relationship with you, you should not accept that she's going to continue talking to other guys, whether she calls them friends or not. That's just not cool. It's disrespectful, first of all right? And then second of all, it does create problems. And, I can give you some scenarios here, because you might say, well, I trust her, she wouldn't do anything, and they're just friends. And that might be the case, and she might even think that they're just friends on her side, from her viewpoint, but that doesn't mean that the guy thinks that. Most of the time, the guy is trying to get in there, right? He is trying to, you've been in that situation before. We all have, where you've been an orbiter, right? You've had a girl that you are friends with because you like her, but so you'll do anything for her, and you're just being this really good friend, hoping that someday she'll see how awesome you are and she'll like you too. This is what happens all the time with guys. So to think that in this case it's not happening is ridiculous, right? And the big problem comes to, again, when you have an argument, you have a fight in a relationship, there's what happens when she starts talking to her guy friends about you in your relationship, okay? Especially if one of those guy friends is a guy that is an orbiter, that she doesn't know is, right, that likes her. And then he starts to poison the well, right? He starts to say, oh, yeah, it sounds like he's really a jerk. Like, yeah, I don't know if you should stay with this guy, right? He starts to encourage her to exit the relationship, or, God forbid, like, she gets drunk one night, she goes over to hang out with him, crashes at his house, bada bing, bada boom. Okay, so it's just not good. It's just not good at all. And like I said, it is disrespectful, because it just looks bad on you to have a girl that you are seeing that is out with a guy, or talking with another guy, communicating regularly with him, being friends with another guy, right? You should be her guy friend, all right? And then she should have girlfriends, and that's totally fine. And likewise, right? It applies to you. I've already told you, you shouldn't have girlfriends. Like, you shouldn't have them, period, okay? Acquaintances, fine, but you shouldn't have girlfriends. There's no good that can come from that. And a lot of guys will make up all kinds of stuff like, oh yeah, well, girls introduced me to other girls, and no, come on. I'm not buying that. Sure, maybe once in a blue moon that happens, but the danger of it and the risk of it and the negative consequences do not outweigh those sometimes possible positive positive interactions that could happen. All right, so next one here is no communicating with exes. All right, look, guys, I shouldn't have to say a lot of these things on this list, but this should be a very clear rule, right? But I'm amazed at how many guys are in relationships with women and those women are communicating with their exes, right? Or maybe you are, right? You shouldn't be doing that, right? Again, as the man in the relationship, as the leader, you should be leading the relationship in a positive direction. That's what all this is about. It's about making the choices as a man that you know are going to lead the relationship in a positive direction and avoid the pitfalls that could happen, right? So communicating with exes is one of the biggest pitfalls. It happens all the time. And what happens is that, I've heard so many sob stories of guys saying, oh yeah, my girlfriend, she was talking with her ex, or she went to lunch with her ex or whatever, and she said that she didn't have any feelings for him anymore, and then all of a sudden, bam, he gets hit by, now she slept with him, or whatever happens. It's not a good idea, right? There's no reason to communicate with an ex. There's no reason to make an ex into a friend, or to say, oh, we've had a lifelong friendship, or any of this kind of stuff. I don't buy it. It doesn't matter. When you're in a committed relationship with someone, if you're serious about it, you're willing to drop people out of your life that don't fit your life anymore. And it is something that I cannot believe how loyal some people are to their friends who are not even loyal to them, right? Or just out of just a ridiculous sense of loyalty that, when something is not right for your life, you need to be able to drop it. Again, I guess I'm going off on the friend thing, but this applies to exes. All right. The only exception to this is obviously if you have a kid with someone, you have to communicate with that person. But aside from that, you shouldn't be communicating with exes, period. And no one should do that in a relationship. It's just a no-no. And if you can't abide by that, maybe you shouldn't be in a committed relationship, or, with that person if you don't feel strong enough to do that. And certainly, like I said, when you make this guideline, if you have a woman that wants to get in a committed relationship with you, or any of these guidelines or rules, and she won't do them, it's a red flag. Okay, there's a reason why she won't do these things. All right, and it's communicating to you how much she values you, right, and the relationship, and also whatever it is that she's hiding. All right. The next one is location tracking on. All right. So what do I mean by this? It means that if you're in a committed relationship with someone, you should have their location at all times, and they should have your location. All right. Again, this is not controlling or insecure, because it's not one way. You're not just saying, hey, turn on your location so I can see where you're at all the time. You're saying, we're going to exchange locations. You're going to know where I am at all the time, and I'm going to know where you're at. Now, why have this one, right? Does this one seem really like untrusting? Sure, I guess you could say that, but it's not about that. I would say that if someone's not willing to share their location all the time and they're in a committed relationship with you, that is untrusting. Like, why would they not trust you with the location data? First of all, just for safety reasons, it makes sense. But second of all, if you know that your location data is being shared, how much less likely are you to do something you shouldn't be doing? Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not even just talking about her. I'm talking about you. It's a protection for you. Remember, a lot of these things are not just protections for trying to control a woman. That's not what it's about. It's protections, it's self-protections for yourself, because you might screw up, right? Do you want to be doing the wrong thing? No. If you are being accountable, okay, and you're being transparent and your location is being shared, it's going to prevent you from going and doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing either, okay? So you should have your location on. She should have her location on. If you guys don't want to do that, that is a problem. But I see so many couples that do not have this, and I'm like, why would you not implement this very basic level of security in the relationship, right? I mean, again, it's not about trust. It's about saying, okay, I now know that I can count on that. I know where this person is at all times, that they know where I am, right? It's about accountability. It's not about, oh, I don't trust this person, okay? That's not what any of this is about, but it's just being smart, okay? It's just being smart, especially, like I said, most of these things apply in moments of weakness, right? When you're in a fight, you're in an argument, that's where most of these things happen. And if you have these rules in place, it's going to prevent those things from causing a major disruption in the relationship. Okay, next one. This one's similar. Phone passwords and emails should be exchanged. Now, this depends on the level of the relationship. Obviously, if you're just girlfriend, boyfriend, you just met someone, you just get into a committed relationship, you probably don't want to share your email passwords, which might contain a lot of personal data, account data. I'm not talking about bank accounts and stuff like that, but you should share your phone password, right? You should have access to each other's phones. You should be able to see each other's messages. Again, it doesn't mean you need to check these things. It's not, a trust issue in that regard, but it's a preventative measure, right? If your girlfriend or your wife has access to your phone at any time, it's going to prevent you from doing stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, right? Likewise, it's going to prevent her from potentially doing stuff that she's not supposed to be doing, okay? And these are things that you decide ahead of time in order to make the relationship as secure and as successful as possible, right? A lot of stuff happens on people's private phones, right? I mean, am I delusional in saying this, or is this true, right? And again, and every single person that this happens to, they say, oh, it wouldn't happen to me, right? They say, oh, no, I can trust my girlfriend, or I can trust my spouse. But is that really the case, right? Is it possible that everyone can be correct, that they can trust this person? Or otherwise, no one would ever get betrayed. So no matter how high a level of trust that you have, it still makes sense to put these measures into place. And this is one that I think makes a lot of sense. Okay, the final one I have here is no girls' night out, no girls' trips, none of this stuff. And this applies, again, likewise, to guys' night out and guys' trips and all of this kind of thing, okay? Now, when I say this, I don't mean that you or she can't hang out with your friends. Obviously, you can do that. It's just the context and the situation, right? So a lot of girls' night outs, they're going to the nightclub to dance. That's not cool. That's extremely disrespectful to you as a man, right? If someone sees your girl out at a nightclub and they know that she's with you, that just looks bad on you, okay? Likewise, you go out with your friends. You don't need to be going out to a bar. You don't need to be going out to places that are questionable if you're in a long-term committed relationship, right? If you're single, that's fine. If you're casually dating, totally fine. But once you're in a relationship, you should be doing relationship stuff, not single person stuff, okay? So it's fine to go out with your friends, right? She can go out with her friends for dinner or go for lunch or something, or go to do some activity or go to the spa for a spa day, whatever. That kind of girls' night out or whatever, girls' day out, girls' thing is fine, right? This likewise with guys, right? You're going to go golfing, you're going to go, hike or something like that. Totally cool, totally fine, right? But going out to nightclubs, going out to bars, going to where single people do single person stuff and drink a lot of alcohol, it's not a good formula for a successful relationship, right? So again, like I said, I know that a lot of these things might seem restrictive, they might seem controlling, they might seem like they're insecure, but I'm telling you this from working with hundreds of guys, seeing so many relationships fall apart, seeing so many situations where guys are cheated on, or even where guys make mistakes in a relationship. Having made mistakes myself in a relationship, believe me, these rules are very important, okay? And like I said, as a man, it's your job as a leader to lead the relationship. And so you should be setting these things, and you should have these as non-negotiable standards, right? And a lot of women that you would tell these things to might say, oh no, I'm not doing that, or that's ridiculous, or that's controlling. And your response should be, that's fine. That's just the kind of relationship that I would want to be in. So if you're not okay with that, that's cool, right? That's totally fine. And then you're not going to get in a committed relationship with a woman that's not willing to do those things, right? And you might find that you might say, well, then what woman would be willing to, it's a woman that has a very, very high regard for you, that really values you very highly and has a high desire for you, because then she would want those same things, right? What woman that doesn't have an extremely high desire for you wouldn't want these rules to be in place to protect the relationship? Of course she would want those things, right? Does that make sense to you? Do you see what I'm saying here? Unless a person's hiding something, right? Or unless you're hiding something. These are just common sense things that, you could say, oh yeah, they lack trust. But in reality, it's just being transparent, right? That's how I view it. It's like, okay, you should be willing to do all these things because you're trying to be transparent, because you respect the other person enough that you're never going to put yourself into a compromising situation. Oh, I actually did skip one. There is one more, which is that showing phone messages when guys text, right? So this is kind of a mutual thing as well, which is that if I were to get a text from a woman, I would show my wife Nicole that. I would show her the text. I would show her the communication that happened so that she can see that, right? I'm as transparent as possible with that. It's not that, oh, she could just check my phone. That's a cop out, a bullshit answer. It's like, okay, if I got a text from a woman, let me show her what it is so that she can see what it is. And likewise, right? If a girl gets a text from a guy, she should show you, even if it's a guy friend or whatever. Again, like I said, she shouldn't be communicating with guy friends, but it's going to happen from time to time, or maybe it's an acquaintance or whatever it is. You should see that text. Even if it's a coworker, you should see that text. You should see that communication. It should be transparent to you. All right. So to wrap this up, now, where does this apply, right? This applies when you enter a relationship, a committed relationship. If you're casually dating a girl, do not try and implement any of this stuff. It would be controlling and weird, okay? But if you're going to get into a committed relationship, what's going to happen most of the time, and how it should happen, is that you like this girl a lot. Maybe you're seeing some other girls. She likes you a lot, so she asks the question, "Where's this going?" Or she basically says, "Hey, are we going to be exclusive or not?" Right? At that point, she's asking for that. This is where you put down the guidelines. You say, look, these are some standards that I have for a relationship. These are how I would like the thing to function. And if you're good with that, then we can proceed. But you need to go over these things. All right. Now, if you're already in a relationship, what do you do in this case? Okay, it's a little bit hard to start introducing a bunch of rules and stuff. But what you do is you say, look, I want to, I really like you. I want to make this relationship as successful as possible. And here's some things that are really important to me that are some standards that I have that I would like to implement into this relationship in order to protect both of us and to make the relationship as secure and as rock solid as possible. Okay, and then you can start implementing these things and talking about each one of these things and why it's important. And again, you might face some resistance here, but you're going to have to kind of decide how important these things are, right? And depending on that resistance that you get, what you want to do in that case, right? A lot of cases, if a woman is not willing to do these things, right, then she's kind of showing you where she values you, right? Especially things around like not talking to exes or not talking to other guys. Those are really topics that she should have no problem giving up that stuff if she wants to be with you in a committed relationship, right? And again, like I said, once you're in it, it's a little bit more of a tricky situation. But look, you should still be implementing these things. And better late than never. If you don't do this, like I said, you are setting yourself up for a lot of problems later down the road. So it's better to bite the bullet now, to talk about these things now, and to make sure that these things are being implemented. Otherwise, later down the road, it's going to be harder, and when problems start to occur, then it becomes even more difficult to deal with these things. So that's it. If you guys have some other ones, leave a comment down below. I try to cover pretty much everything that, based on like I said, in coaching a lot of guys and talking to a lot of guys and seeing a lot of relationship, what are the main issues that come up and how to prevent those things from coming up. But I'm sure there's some other ones that maybe I haven't put here. Let me know what you think about that, and I'll see you tomorrow.